Hey everybody, it's Craig Victor here, and in this video we're going to talk about ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, and how that all works together when shooting in manual mode. Alright, for this example of shooting in manual mode, I'm shooting indoors with some studio lighting, so I've had to raise my ISO to 640. Normally I shoot outdoors and I'll have that at the lowest ISO possible. On the Nikon that would be ISO 64, on the Canon it would be ISO 100. So anyway, that's why I'm at ISO 640, because we're using some constant studio lighting right now. So I have an aperture setting of f11, which means that there's going to be more in focus from front to back. So I've focused on the closest speed light to us, the forward Canon 600 RX, and then you could sort of see that the one behind it isn't quite as in focus, but as I go to f1.4, you're going to really see that second speed light become much more blurry. Now, I have a shutter speed of 25, but I'm on a tripod, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. But when I'm shooting handheld, I often like to keep my shutter speed above 100. So let's just take a quick shot of this. Okay, we've taken a shot of that, and let's look at the information really quickly. Now you can see here I have my histogram, and I could actually open that up a bit more. You can see that it's more to the left. And you can see this is for the red, the blue, and the green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shutter speed down to, let's say 1/20th. I'll take another shot. We'll keep the aperture the same. We'll look at the histogram. And you can see it's starting to move over to the right, but I could still actually open that up a little more. So I'm going to change that to 1/15th of a second. I'll keep everything else the same. I'll take a shot. We'll have a look at that. And you can see that it's starting to move to the right. Now let's see if I can get it a little larger for you. So you can see now we have our darks, which is the left, and the brights. I could even open that up a little more. Let's just take it down to, let's see, 1/10th of a second. We'll have a look at the information on the histogram, and you can see I haven't peeked out to the right. So that's an accurate exposure. Now, if you're shooting in another mode, you don't really have that control as far as I'm concerned. That's why I like shooting in manual mode. Now, what I want to do is I want to change my aperture. So I want to open it up to 1.4. Now, this is going to give us more of a blurry background. Now, I'm going to have to adjust my shutter speed to compensate for the larger aperture opening. So I'm going to take it up to, let's see what I can take it up to. Let's say I take it up to 1,000, see what's happening here. Now I'm not using my in-camera meter right now. I could do that, but I'm just trying to illustrate that. But I got it pretty close. I think we could go maybe a little less time on that, and let's see what happens. So let's take it down to 1/800th, and we'll have a look at the histogram. And you can see we've got a pretty good histogram here. I could even go a little further, I think, on that one. And so we're at shutter speed 640, f1.4, and ISO we didn't change. Take another shot. We'll look at our histogram. And you can see that I've got what they like to call exposed to the right. Now I could even try one more and see if we peek it out. So let's see what we got here. So go to 500. Have a look at that. And I still haven't peeked out. So I just want to show you what it looks like when it's peeked out, when we've gone too far with our light. And we'll look at our histogram, and you can see now I've gone too far to the right. So I'm going to blow out my highlights. And if we go to our highlight indicator, you can see we've got that going. So we've gone too far. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it to, let's see what we had it at. We had 340. Let's say I'll bring it up to about 500. We'll take a shot. We'll have a look at the histogram. And the highlights aren't blown out. And we'll look at the histogram here. And you can see that we haven't peeked out. So that's a pretty good exposure as far as exposing it to the right. And like I said, don't blow out your highlights. I think that's the biggest thing when you're shooting in manual mode and if you're shooting in RAW. And so hopefully you found this video helpful. You've seen the relation between, say, f1.4 and how the background becomes a little more blurry, and f11, and you've seen the relationship of the shutter speed. Like I said, if I was outdoors, the ISO would be the lowest ISO possible, but you can see how the shutter speed and the aperture interact to get an accurate exposure. All right, in this video, we're going to do a quick recap of shooting in manual mode. I feel that it gives you more creative control and more consistent, accurate exposures. So we've got our ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, and those work together to be what some people call the exposure triangle. Now, your ISO, I like to keep my ISO as low as possible when shooting in natural light or with studio strobes. Higher ISO makes your sensor more sensitive to light, but you're going to have more noise at higher ISO settings, for example 3200, than you would at ISO 100. Now your shutter speed. Slower shutter allows more light, faster shutter less light, but it freezes motion. Shutter speed and natural light portraiture. I like to keep my shutter speed above 100 to reduce camera shake. Flash shutter speed sync. Now, if you're using a studio strobe on a Canon, you're capped out at a shutter speed of 200. On the Nikon, it's 250. Now, that's different if you're using speed lights and high speed sync. Now, aperture and f-stops. Now, on the left, we have f1.4, so it's larger aperture, and then on the right, we've got f8, so you can see how that looks. Now, with your f-stops, f1.4 is a large aperture opening, providing a shallow depth of field, and your foreground is in focus, but your background is blurry. Now, we have an image coming up that illustrates that. Now, here's my settings. I was at ISO 64 on the Nikon D810. I was at f1.4, shutter speed 160 on the 85mm. And to stop too much light coming into my sensor, I had a 3-stop B+W neutral density filter, which allowed me to shoot at f1.4 on a sunny day. Now, this next image, you're going to see more in focus from front to back. Now, this was shot in Monument Valley at f22, and you could see that there's a lot more in focus from front to back. So this was at f22. So the f-stops are in 1/3 increments. Now, the ones that are highlighted in bold, those are the major or well-known f-stops, 1.4, f2, 2.8, 4, 5.6. And often the prime lenses will start at 1.4, but with a zoom, you'll have, say, f2.8 as your minimum aperture. And then the ones after that, say f1.4, 1.6, 1.8, those are in 1/3 increments. So I've created a free PDF download for you that has all the different f-stops, and you could just print that out and put it in your pocket and take it on shoots with you, and you might find it helpful. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video and you find it helpful, please share this video on the web. All you have to do is go down to share, click on that, and you can see you can easily share this video on Facebook or on Twitter. Also, give me a like and leave a comment. I read those every couple of days, and I usually respond within 48 hours. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment below. Anyway, thanks for watching. Check out the rest of my videos. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And like I said, share this video on the web. All right, thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.